Imagine a public hall in 19th century England. Gas lamps burn along the walls. The air is thick with smoke, sweat, and low voices. Men sit in the front rows, coats buttoned, eyes fixed on the platform. Women stand or sit at the back, pressed against the walls, some with children in their arms, some half hidden in the shadows. On the platform, a priest is expected to speak. He holds a Bible. He carries the weight of centuries of Christian tradition. He carries the authority of the church. Everyone knows the pattern. The priest will speak. The people will listen. God will be invoked. Doubt will be condemned. But tonight, the pattern breaks. Before the priest can rise, a woman steps forward. She has no robe, no cross, no holy book. She has only her mind, her voice, and the courage to use both. Her name is Harriet Law. She was 19th century British freethinker, a salaried secularist lecturer, and the only woman on the General Council of the First International, in a time when women were told to be silent, and religion was treated as beyond question. She chose to speak, and she chose to question. Section 1 Birth, Family, and Strict Baptist Roots. Harriet Teresa Frost was born on the 5th of November 1831. In Ongar, Essex, England. Her father was a small farmer and butcher. Her family was strictly religious. She was brought up as a strict Baptist. In that world, the Bible was not just a book. It was the final authority. Preachers were not just speakers. They were guardians of truth. Religion was not just about Sundays. It was about identity, respectability, and social belonging. From childhood she was taught that the Bible was the Word of God, that salvation depended on faith in Christ, that obedience to divine authority was the highest duty. Her early life was shaped by sermons in chapels, prayers at home, hymns sung in crowded pews, and rules about what was sinful. To be good meant to be religious. To doubt was to risk your soul and your reputation. Section 2 moved to London. Sunday school teacher and quiet doubts. When her father's business failed, the family moved to London's East End. In London, Harriet taught in a Sunday school. To help support the family, she repeated to children the same doctrines she had received. She told them about heaven and hell, about sin and salvation, about obedience to God. On the surface, she was part of the religious system, but inside, her mind was watching. She saw how children were taught to fear hell before they could fully understand the world. She saw how questions were discouraged, how difficult issues were pushed aside, with phrases like, "God's ways are mysterious, do not question the Bible." She saw how religion shaped who was considered respectable, who was considered dangerous, who was allowed to speak, and who was expected to be silent. These impressions did not vanish. They stayed with her, quietly, like small cracks in a wall, waiting for pressure to widen them. Section 3 Meeting the Freethinkers. Holyoke, Southwell, A.N.D., The Light of Reason. In the 1850s, a new kind of speaker appeared in East London. Freethinkers and Owenites, such as George Jacob Holyoke and Charles Southwell. They gave public lectures, criticizing Christianity, questioning the Bible, and promoting secular and cooperative ideas. Harriet went to these meetings. At first, she went as a defender of Christianity. When Holyoke spoke at Pulpit Street in Whitechapel, she tried to argue against him, in defense of her faith. But something important happened. The more she debated, the more she listened, the more she realized that the questions were sharp, and the answers she had been given were weak. They asked, why should we accept miracles without evidence? Why should we trust a book that contradicts itself? Why should priests decide what is moral for everyone? In the process of debating them, she lost her religious beliefs. In 1855, she said she had seen the light of reason. She became one of Holyoke's most active supporters. She embraced atheism, secularism, feminism, and cooperative social ideas. This was not a fashionable pose. It was a serious break with her upbringing, her community, and the expectations placed on her as a woman. Section 4 Marriage, a New Name, and a Shared Unbelief. On the 11th of January 1855, Harriet married Edward Law. He was also a freethinker. They lived in Walworth, South London, and had several children. Their marriage was not built on shared church membership or shared religious rituals. It was built on shared commitment to reason, to secular ideas, to the right to doubt. From this point, she became known as Harriet Law. Their home was not ruled by priests. It became a social center for secularists and radicals, especially in the 1870s. Harriet did not treat her unbelief as a private secret. She did not say, "I will quietly stop believing and live a normal life." She chose a public path. If she had left religion for reason, she would also speak for reason in public. Section 5. A salaried secularist lecturer. From 1859, Harriet Law was paid a salary to lecture for the secular movement. She was a professional public speaker for secularism and free thought. She traveled around Britain, speaking in public halls, meeting rooms, and sometimes in open-air gatherings. Her audiences were often hostile. In Hebden Bridge in 1870, lectures she gave on Martin Luther and Tom Paine were disrupted by local Christians. She was punched in the face while trying to return to the hall through a mob. In Woolwich, when she lectured on How I Became a Freethinker and Why I Remain One, a local writer attacked it in the press as the infidel lecture. Yet she continued. She spoke out against Christianity in the 1860s and 1870s. Across the country, her style was clear and direct. She did not hide behind complicated philosophical jargon. She used simple language so that people with little formal education could still follow the argument. When religious speakers said, "Believe because it is written," she replied, "Show me the reason, show me the evidence." She was not attacking religion just to shock people. She was defending something deeper, the right of every person to think for themselves. Section 6. The secularist movement around her. Harriet Law was part of a wider secularist movement in 19th century Britain. This movement included George Jacob Holyoake, who helped define and popularize secularism; Charles Bradlaugh, a powerful atheist orator, who later became a member of parliament and fought to take his seat without swearing a religious oath; Annie Besant, who later became a famous freethinker and reformer. Secularists argued for freedom of speech, freedom of belief, and the separation of church and state. They opposed religious tests for public office, blasphemy laws, and church control of education. They wanted a society where belief or unbelief was a personal matter, not a legal requirement. Harriet stood on the same platforms as male secularist leaders. She spoke at the opening of Leicester Secular Hall in 1881, alongside Bradlaugh, Besant, Holyoake and others. She wrote for secularist newspapers. She edited a paper called The Secular Chronicle in the 1870s. In it, she advanced secularist and feminist ideas, and included profiles of free-thinking women, such as Mary Wollstonecraft. In a world where public debate was dominated by men, her presence on the platform was itself a challenge. She was not only questioning God, she was also questioning the unwritten rule that women should remain silent in public affairs. Section 7. Dogma as a system of control. In her lectures and writings, Harriet Law treated religious dogma as a system of control. Dogma says, "This is the truth, do not question it, do not test it, just accept it." For her, this was the opposite of honest inquiry. She argued that dogma demands obedience, dogma discourages curiosity, dogma protects authority more than it protects truth. If a belief needs to threaten people with hell, or bribe them with heaven, to keep them loyal, then it is not appealing to their reason. It is appealing to their fear and desire. She believed that a belief that cannot survive questioning is not worth keeping. Inherited belief is easy. You receive it as a child. You repeat it as an adult. Tested belief is hard. You examine it, you doubt it, you keep it or reject it, based on reasons. Harriet wanted people to move from inherited belief to tested belief. Only then could they say, "This is truly my view," and not just, "This is what I was told." Section 8. Blind belief and the habits of the mind. Harriet Law did not use modern psychological terms. But her observations about belief were psychologically sharp. She saw that blind belief can feel safe. It gives a sense of certainty. It gives a sense of belonging. But it also has a cost. When people accept beliefs without evidence, they slowly stop trusting their own judgment. They become dependent on priests and religious authorities to tell them what is right and wrong. Blind belief becomes a habit. It does not always shout. It often whispers, "Do not think too much. Do not ask too many questions. Just accept. Just obey." Harriet's message was the opposite. She encouraged people to think more, not less. She wanted people to see doubt, not as a sin, but as a sign that the mind is alive. For her, a person who never doubts is not strong, but untested. A belief that has never faced questions is like a bridge that has never carried weight. It may look solid, but no one knows if it will hold. Section 9, Victorian England. Religion, law, and respectability. To understand how radical Harriet Law was, we must understand the world around her. 19th century England was officially a Christian country. The Church of England was connected to the state. Religious ideas shaped law, education, and public morality. Churches influenced what was taught in schools, what was considered respectable behavior, what was seen as immoral. To be openly irreligious was to risk social exclusion. To be openly irreligious, and a woman, was even more shocking. Harriet Law saw how religious authority often supported the existing social order. Priests preached obedience to rulers. They told the poor to accept their suffering as part of God's plan. They promised reward in the next life instead of justice in this one. She believed that when religious institutions hold social power, they often defend their own authority, even when it conflicts with human freedom. This is why she supported secularism. She wanted the state to be neutral in matters of religion. She wanted laws to be based on human needs and reason, not on sacred texts. For her, secularism was not hatred of religion. It was a way to protect freedom, freedom for believers, and freedom for unbelievers. Section 10, Women, Silence, and the Pulpit. Harriet Law lived in a society where women were expected to be modest, quiet, and obedient. Public speaking, especially on religion and politics, was considered a male activity. Religious teaching often reinforced this by quoting scriptures about women being silent and submissive. Harriet's life cut across these expectations by standing on public platforms and speaking against religious authority. She broke two layers of control at once. First, she broke the idea that women should not speak in public. Second, she broke the idea that religious authority should not be questioned. She saw that religious doctrines were often used to justify the lower status of women, to keep them in the home, to keep them away from decision-making, to tell them that God had given them a fixed place. Her own example showed another possibility: a woman who thinks, a woman who doubts, a woman who speaks, a woman who refuses to let tradition define her limits. Section 11, Morality without God. A central theme in the secularist movement and in Harriet Law's work was the idea that morality does not require God. She argued that people can be good without fear of hell and without hope of heaven. Morality can be built on empathy, the ability to feel with others, experience, learning from real consequences, and responsibility, accepting that our actions are ours. She rejected the claim that without religion, people would have no reason to behave well. For her, a moral person is someone who thinks about how their actions affect real human beings. If an action causes unnecessary harm, it is wrong. If it increases well-being and fairness, it is right. No divine command is needed to see that cruelty is harmful, or that honesty builds trust. By placing morality on human foundations, she removed the excuse, "I was only obeying God." In her view, people must own their choices. not hide behind sacred authority. Section 12. Critical thinking is a practice of freedom. For Harriet Law, critical thinking was not just an intellectual game, it was a practice of freedom. A person who cannot question cannot be truly free. If you accept every claim from authority without asking for evidence, you become a tool in someone else's hands. If you fear doubt more than you fear error, you will cling to false beliefs just because they feel safe. Harriet invited her audiences to ask simple but powerful questions. What is the evidence? Who benefits from this belief? Who is harmed by it? Are there other explanations? These questions do not require a university degree. They require only the courage to think. Her goal was not to replace one dogma with another dogma. Her goal was to encourage people to become the authors of their own understanding. Section 13. Radical politics in the First International. Harriet Law's work was not limited to religion. She was also involved in radical politics. She became a member of the General Council of the International Working Men's Association. This organization is often called the First International. It was connected with early socialist and workers' movements, and with figures like Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Harriet Law was the only woman on that General Council. She took part in debates on issues such as the church budget. She proposed that church property and income should be transferred to schools. She was mandated to represent the central section of working women at the Hague Congress in 1872. Her concerns included the conditions of working people, the rights of women, and the need for social and political reform. For her, the struggle against religious domination and the struggle against social injustice were connected. Both were struggles against unaccountable power. Section 14. Writing, editing, and family legacy. Harriet Law did not only speak, she also wrote and edited. She edited the Secular Chronicle in the 1870s. Through this paper, she commented on religion, politics, social reform, and women's rights. She included profiles of free-thinking women. Her house became a social center for the secularist cause. Her daughter, Harriet T. Law, wrote for the same paper. Another daughter, Florence Aspasia Law, later became active in the ethical movement. She wrote a pamphlet for the Union of Ethical Societies called A Religion for Everybody. In this way, Harriet's influence continued beyond her own lifetime, linking 19th century radical secularism to the later organized humanist movement. Section 15. Later years, death, and historical fade. Harriet Law remained active in secularist and radical circles. She was involved in the National Secular Society, and later, in the British Secular Union. She spoke at major events, such as the opening of Leicester Secular Hall in 1881. She lived through industrialization, urban growth, political reform, and the slow rise of organized secularism. She died on the 19th of July 1897, in Peckham, London, from a heart attack. She was buried at Forest Hill Cemetery. After her death, her name gradually faded from popular memory. She did not become as famous as some male secularist leaders. Her story was not widely told in school books, but in the history of secularism, free thought, and early humanist ethics, she remains an important figure, a real woman who stood on public platforms and argued that reason, not revelation, should guide human life. Section 16. Closing. From her voice to yours. Now, bring the story to the present, not to a Victorian hall, but to your own room. You are sitting with your own thoughts. Around you, the world is still full of loud voices, religious voices, political voices, cultural voices. Some tell you what to believe, some tell you what to fear, some tell you what to obey, but somewhere inside you, there is a quieter voice. The voice that asks, is this true? Where is the evidence? Who gains from this belief? Who loses because of it? That quiet voice is the beginning of free thought. Harriet Law lived her life listening to that voice, strengthening that voice, and giving that voice a place. On the public stage, she believed that the greatest freedom is the freedom to think. The moment you choose reason over fear, questions over blind obedience, honesty over comfortable illusion, you begin to guide yourself. You become your own compass, your own strength, your own witness to truth. Harriet Law's story is not only about the past, it is a reminder for the present that no matter how strong tradition is, no matter how loud authority speaks, a single mind, willing to question, can change the direction of a life, and many such minds together can change the direction of a society.